students. This video is intended to explain the first chapter of Book 1 in History, Bricks, Beads and Bones, the Harappan Civilization. Now, detailed notes and picture-based questions have already been sent to you. I hope you have learned and you have studied the notes as you were asked to do. The first chapter deals with the first civilization of the Indian subcontinent, and the spread of this civilization was not only in India but also in modern day Pakistan. So you're requested to listen this entire video properly. The explanation is being done according to the topics that will come one after the other. You're also requested to listen it again and again to understand the key points and the key topics of this chapter. Now, the chapter is named as Bricks, Beads and Bones. Now, these are the three different kinds of sources that are available to us for the Harappan civilization. We have the bricks, and I'll tell you how they were being made and what is the quality of the bricks used in Harappan civilization. The second is beads. Beads are something that are related to craft production. There are a lot of activities done by the Harappan civilization in the area of craft production, and beads are one such example of that craft production. The third aspect of this chapter is bones. Now, what is so important about bones? Bones are one of the sources through which we reconstruct the history of the Harappan civilization. Now, these are the three main sources, the three B's, the bricks, the beads, and the bones, which are the sources to understand the Harappan civilization. So, question number 1, for 1 mark, they can ask you to list any two sources to understand or to reconstruct the history of Harappan civilization. We have done this in class 11, where the first part of the chapter deals with the sources only, the blue part, if you remember. Now, there won't be any blue part in class 12th, but yes, there can be a 1 marker asking you the sources of the concerned period. So for this period, the sources are the bricks, the beads, and the bones that are excavated and recovered from different sites of Harappan civilization. Now, question number 2 for 1 marker, which is very important that you have to keep in mind, is why is the civilization known as Harappan civilization? Now, as you know, the previous name, which was very popular about the civilization, was Indus Valley civilization. Now, with the research and the excavations that have gone by in the past 2 decades, the archaeologists have moved away from using the term Indus Valley civilization, although it has not gone away altogether. But the popular name now that has come up for this civilization is Harappan civilization. Why don't we call it as Indus Valley civilization popularly now? Because the sites that are being excavated and found for the civilization is no more situated to only near the Indus Valley. It is widely spread in modern day Pakistan and Indian subcontinent as far as Jammu. There is one site of Harappan civilization that is present in Jammu also. We have one site which is as far as Uttar Pradesh. So it is now confirmed that the sites of Harappan civilizations are not only near the Indus River. Therefore, the name Indus Valley civilization is not popularly used. Now, the term that is being used is Harappan civilization primarily. Now, why Harappan civilization? For 1 marker, very important. So, listen carefully. Harappan civilization, the term Harappa is a site. It's a mature Harappan site, and it is in modern day Pakistan, and it is the first site to be discovered uh, of the civilization. So it is therefore named as the Harappan civilization. The first site which was discovered of this civilization was Harappa, and therefore this civilization came to be known as Harappan civilization. For a one marker, please remember this. We call this civilization as Harappan civilization or Indus Valley civilization, but Indus Valley civilization is not popularly used. Now the popular term for this civilization is Harappan civilization. And why do we call it Harappan civilization? Because Harappa was the first site that was discovered, and the world came to know about this civilization through Harappa. Now, moving forward, this was the introduction of what we are going to study in this chapter. We are going to study the political, socio-economic, religious, economic aspects of Harappan civilization. That is our key focus on this chapter. Now, the first thing that we are going to see is in the right side of the screen, we see the Harappan seal. Now, very important. The seal, the aspect of seals are being done in Mesopotamian chapter also, the theme 2 of class 11th chapter. Seals and sealings, if you remember. Now, Harappan seal is very important. It's the most distinctive artifact of Harappan or Indus Valley civilization, as you can see. Now, this entire sentence can be given and you can be asked to elaborate on this. Why is Harappan seal the most distinct artifact of Harappan or Indus Valley civilization? Why is so distinctive? Why is it so important or significant? This can be a question. Now, feature number 1, it is made up of steatite. Steatite is something which is a stone, and it is a stone which can be easily molded. It is a stone that can be easily, it's easy to make seals out of steatite than any other stone. So it was taken to make the Harappan seal. Second feature of Harappan seal is, as you can see, it contains animal motifs and signs from a script. Now, please understand, as you can see an animal figure here, this most probably is the unicorn, which is a mythical creature. It doesn't exist, but it is present on Harappan seals. It's a unicorn in this particular seal, and it has signs from a script. At the top, you can see there are signs. Now, these signs are not deciphered. We don't know what is the script of Harappan civilization because we are not able to understand their language, their signs, we are not able to understand till date. So therefore, these remain undeciphered. It's a mystery for us. We are not able to understand any sign of Harappan script. The word that we will use, the key term that we will use is undeciphered. The Harappan script is undeciphered. That means we are not able to understand the Harappan script. Archaeologists and historians have tried, but we are not able to understand this particular script. Now, other sources for knowing and reconstructing the Harappan civilization are the houses, the pots, the ornaments, their tools, their seals. All of these are sources for us to understand the Harappan civilization, right? And as you can see, we will explore how archaeological material is interpreted and how interpretations sometimes change. Now, class, you have to understand very clearly that since we are not able to understand the script of Harappan civilization, all we can depend on are the theories of various archaeologists on the basis of what they have found in different sites. For example, I'll give you an example to clear this out. For example, the houses that are being discovered in Harappan civilization, the ground floor have practically no windows. So the theory is probably the Harappans uh, were considered privacy very important in their lives. So they didn't had any windows on the ground floor of the house. Now this is a theory. We have no evidence to prove it. All the knowledge that we have about Harappan civilization is in a form of a theory only. We practically have no evidence to back our theories. So all the things that you will see now one after the other are theories. They are simply theories because we are not able to decipher the script of Harappans. I believe that is clear. Now, question number 2 that comes from this chapter is definition of the term culture. This is important. You have to learn this. I've given this in the detailed notes as well. Now, the archaeologists use the term culture for a group of objects distinctive in style that are usually found together within a specific geographical area and period of time. Let's break this up. So, the term culture is a group of objects. Say, for example, tools or beads or blades. All of these are group of objects. They're distinctive in style. That means these kinds of objects will not be seen in any other civilization. They're very distinctive in style. If you see them, you will very easily um, be able to recognize that which civilization do they belong to. If you see these beads, you will not say that these beads belong to Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamian civilization had different kinds of artifacts, different kinds of objects. The moment you see these beads, you will be able to recognize that these are Harappan beads and not for any other civilization. So they are distinctive in style and they are found together in a specific geographical area. For example, these tools, these blades, these beads are found in a particular geographical area. What is that geographical area? Indian subcontinent. So modern day Pakistan and modern day India. These are the areas in which you will find these specific objects together and over a period of time. That means for a specific time period only you will find these objects. Of course, now the beads that are being made are not the same that was there in Harappan civilization. So for a period of time only you will find these specific kinds of objects. So if we club them together, group of objects, as you can see in the image, very distinctive in style. You will not find these kinds of objects in any other civilization, and they are found in a particular geographical area only, for example only in the Indian subcontinent for this particular chapter, and over a period of time. Now the period of time that you have to remember for this particular chapter is 2600 to 1900 BC. This is the date of the mature Harappan civilization. Why do I say the term mature? Because this is what we are going to study in this particular chapter, the mature Harappan civilization. That means when the civilization was at its peak, it was flourishing, it was prosperous during this period. There was, before this was early Harappan civilization, and after that means after 1900 BC, we will call it late Harappan civilization. What we have to study is mature Harappan civilization. I am again repeating myself. Before 2600 BCE will be the early Harappan civilization, which is again not in a part of our syllabus. After 1900 BC will be late Harappan civilization, but between 2600 to 1900 BCE will be the mature Harappan civilization, which is a part of our syllabus. I hope that is clear. You can note down your doubts if any, and you can mail them through your class mail ID to me in case you have not understood any point or any part of this chapter. I'm repeating myself again. This is a very important one marker. Mature Harappan civilization, the time period is 2600 to 1900 BCE. This has to be highlighted. This please underline if you have your textbooks or the printout of this chapter. The time period is 2600 to 1900 BC. And as you know, BCE always go in reverse. It is not 1900 to 2600 BC, it's 2600 to 1900 BC. That has to be remembered. Okay, coming to the next part. This is the map. I have given you the map work in the detailed notes, the PDF file. Please check that, practice that again and again. This is the most important map as far as board examinations are concerned. Every year you have at least 2 to 3 sites which are being asked for mature Harappan. Mature Harappan sites are asked every year in the board examination. So either way, you have to practice the map that is being given to you in the PDF file regularly so that you are able to mark the mature Harappan sites very easily when the exam comes. Now, moving forward, we'll come to the next important topic, that is the subsistence strategies. Now, subsistence strategies is one term that you first have to understand the meaning. What does it mean? Subsistence strategies mean that what were the strategies mm, employed by the Harappans to sustain themselves. That means, what did they uh, uh, survived on? What were the plant and animal products that they survived on? This is the meaning of this topic. Subsistence strategies. That means, what were they surviving on? How were they uh, trying to meet their bare subsistence in that civilization? What were they doing? Right? Now, there are two important things. Number one, we have to study the wide range of plants and animal products that they were using. So let's see what were they using now and what are the sources through which we understand that. So they were using, we'll come to the next page now. The examples are very important. So they are using wheat, barley, lentil, chickpea, and sesame. And in some parts of Gujarat, we have also found millets. Now, how do we know that these were grown and these were cultivated and these were consumed? We have got charred seeds. If you remember your evolution chapter of class 11th, the way through which we have been able to establish that early humans practiced agriculture is because we have found carbonized seeds or charred seeds. In the same manner, charred seeds have been recovered from various sites of Harappan civilization. Now, coming back to the previous page, you can see that there is a specialized class of um, people who research on it. They are known as archaeobotanists. Botany is a branch of science who deals with people who are archaeobotanists deals with the ancient plant species, and these archaeobotanists have given us the clear evidence of charred grains that have been recovered from these sites, these charred grains. And through these charred grains we are able to establish that the Harappans were cultivating these crops: wheat, barley, lentil, chickpea, sesame, and millets. Right? Millets, particularly in Gujarat, to be remembered for a 1 marker. Now, moving forward, the next is this is for plant species. The next is animal species. As I've told you, botany is one branch of science which deals with plant species. There is another branch of science that deals with ancient animal species, and they are archaeozoologists. Zoology is one such branch of science that deals with animal species. Archaeozoologists are people who work to study the ancient animal species of different civilizations. They're also known as zoo archaeologists. Right? Now, so what are the animal species that we have found? We have found the bones of animal bones of cattle, sheep, goat, buffalo, and pig. So might be they were consumed or domesticated in Harappan civilization. With that, we have also found the bones of boar, deer, and gharial. As you know, these three are wild species; they cannot be domesticated. Uh, Gharial, especially. Deer might be domesticated, but they are wild species. They are ones who are situated in uh, forests, right? Now, moving forward, we have to know that, again, a theory. We don't know for sure that Harappans might have hunted these animals themselves or obtained meat from hunting communities. This is something which is, again, purely in theory. We don't know the Harappans whether the Harappans could have hunted these animals or they have obtained meat from other hunting communities. It is only in theory. Probably there might be another community existing with the Harappans who used to hunt, and the Harappans used to take the meat from these hunting communities, or they themselves have hunted these animals, and therefore the bones of these animals have been recovered from sites. Again, a theory, no evidence to prove. This is assumption, this is hypotheses. We don't have any evidence to prove this theory. Major aspects of Harappan civilization are in the form of theory only. As I have told you, we don't have major evidences to prove. Now, next part of the chapter, agricultural technologies. Very important again for a 3 marker. You have to remember it. Now, the picture on the right hand side shows a terracotta bull. Bull signifies agriculture. Bull is used in agriculture, all of you know this. So for this you have to mark three important points. Number one, the representations on seals of terracotta sculpture indicate that bull was being known, and archaeologists extrapolate from this that oxen was used in plowing. So first point, showing that seals and terracotta sculpture, the Harappan seal that we have seen and the terracotta sculpture were indicating bull. As you can see, seals have animal figures, and one of the seals have bull as an animal motif or an animal figure on it, showing that the Harappans were well aware of bull. Number one, so they were well aware that wool can be used in agriculture also. And second important point is that oxen was used in plowing, like it was always there in India. Pair of oxen was always used for plowing. This is point number one of what Harappans were doing in the agricultural field. Point number two, we have evidences of terracotta models of plow that we have recovered from Cholistan and Banavali. There are two sites in Haryana, Cholistan and Banavali. Both the sites show that the models of plow had been recovered from these sites. Now, if there are plows, you have to understand, if plows are being models of plows are being recovered and excavated, that means they were using it, and if they were using it, they were well known um, about the agricultural practices, and they were practicing cultivation as well, right? Point number three, for agriculture, we there is an evidence, proper evidence of a plowed field at Kalibangan. Now understand, if you have a plowed field, it rests the case of any doubt that Harappans were engaged in agriculture, yes or no? They were. Because if you have a plot field, that means they were practicing agriculture, and this is something that have been recovered from Kalibangan in Rajasthan, right? So these sites also need to be remembered and understood very, very clearly. Now, how do we know that the field is being plowed? Now, as you can see, there were two sets of furrows. Furrows are basically made to broadcast the seeds. And these furrows were at right angles to each other. As you can see, the 90-degree angles have been first laid out, and then there are furrows on which the seeds are broadcasted. So this suggests that two crops were grown together. There were two sets of furrows, one simultaneously, one after the other. There were two sets, and which shows that the crops were grown, and there were two crops because there were two furrows at right angles. Right? This is again a very important point, showing that the Harappans knew agriculture very, very clearly. Now, agriculture is not done without irrigation facilities. That is also very, very important. Now, there's a separate question in board examination whether the Harappans knew any irrigation technologies, yes or no. They can ask you to explain that, discuss or describe the irrigation facilities or technologies used by Harappans. Number one, we have see there was all the Harappan sites are located in semi-arid lands. As you can see, that's an area which is today's Sindh, parts of Gujarat, parts of Rajasthan, parts of Haryana. They are semi-arid. You don't have plenty of rainfall. They're not like northeast India where you have plenty of rainfall. Where it's semi-arid, right? So irrigation is required. Point number one is Harappan sites are located in semi-arid lands where irrigation was required. This is point number one. Point number two, traces of canals have been found in Harappan sites in Shortugai in Afghanistan, but not in Punjab and Sindh. So we have traces of canal. What are canals used for? Canals are used for drawing water from the main river. So they had made canals, constructed canals, which had drawn water from the main river to the agricultural fields. And which areas are particularly known for canal building? Shortugai in Afghanistan. So as you can see, the Harappan sites goes as far as parts of Afghanistan as well. So it's a widely spread civilization, right? Modern day Pakistan, there's only one site in Afghanistan, Shortugai, and parts of Indian subcontinent, right? Then you have no traces of canals in Punjab and Sindh. That doesn't mean that there were no canals. It's just that we haven't found any canal traces in Punjab and Sindh. The next point, sorry. The next point is about the reservoirs. Now, apart from canals, there were wells which were constructed and dig, and there were water reservoirs at Dholavira, Gujarat. This is a site in Gujarat. This is a mature Harappan site. Dholavira, very, very important site again, because it was near to um, uh, it's this particular site was used for trade as well, right? It's very important. Lothal and Dholavira both are very important sites in Gujarat. So we have 3 points now. Let us revise these 3 points for irrigation. Number one, you have to write the introduction that most of the Harappan sites were located in semi-arid lands. Point number two, you have canals, and you have to particularly write where do we find canals in. It's a site called Shortugai in Afghanistan. Third point is about the water reservoirs. If you in specifically Dholavira and Gujarat, but these are the three primary points. Beyond this, there's a fourth point also. It is likely that water were drawn from wells, which was used for irrigation. If any 3 points you can write, but the primary 3 points are canals. The first point that the Harappan sites are located in semi-arid areas, and the third point is water reservoirs. After this, if you find that you can add on this point, the wells point, you can add it with the water reservoir point. So this is a 3 marker. Sources will be discussed later. Next topic is Mohenjo-daro, very important. Mohenjo-daro is one of the most important sites of Harappan civilization. So even if a person has no knowledge about Harappan civilization, they might have a knowledge of two sites, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They're very well-known sites. Mohenjo-daro was something which is, now the town planning of Mohenjo-daro is very important. It was divided into two sections. If you can see the map of Mohenjo-daro, there is one called Citadel and the other is the lower town. Citadel and lower town, as you can see, Citadel is something which is elevated and smaller. It is smaller than the lower town, and lower town is larger. It is walled, properly walled, and it is at a distance with the citadel. Now, why had the Harappans created a citadel and a lower town separately? Let's take a look again. In theory, no evidence to back it down. First, let us see the features of citadel and lower town. Now, citadel is at its height, and the buildings were constructed on mud brick platforms. First, the platforms were being raised, and after that, the buildings were being constructed. It was properly walled, as you can see, as I've told you. Walled as in they have separated the citadel and lower town very, very clearly. So there is no probably you can see that the entire Mohenjo-daro site had two different sets of people living in two different sites of the town. So there is one group of people who are living in Citadel and there's one group of people who are living in the lower town. So therefore it is very important to wall it so that there is no exchange of people from one part to the other. That means the lower town people cannot live in Citadel, the Citadel people cannot live in the lower town. So it is properly walled. It is physically separating itself from the lower town. Now, the platforms are being raised, and these platforms, as you can see, are made from mud bricks. It's like elevating the town a little bit more. They're trying to make the citadel higher, right? And so is the lower town. Lower town is also built on platforms. And the important thing here to remember, this is only an example showing that a laborer is doing its task every day so that the platforms are being raised. So the labor is channelized very properly in Harappan civilization. Also, you have to remember here that the city was planned, the settlement was planned. In case of Mesopotamia, if you remember, there was no planning. So Mesopotamian cities are criticized for not being properly planned. They had narrow lanes, and as you can see, people used to throw the garbage out, and then they have to raise. They constantly have to raise their platforms of their houses. Now, in this case, as you can see, the settlement was highly planned. How can we say that it was highly planned? Let's see bricks. Bricks in the entire Mohenjo-daro, and not only Mohenjo-daro, the entire Harappan civilization had a standardized ratio. very, very important that they had a standardized ratio for the brick. So if you take the brick, it will be 4 times and twice the height respectively. That's the ratio. The length and breadth is 4 times and twice the height respectively. So it is 4 is to 2 is to 1. That was the ratio of the brick. Please remember this. It is 4 is to 2 is to 1. And this ratio was applicable on every site of Harappan civilization, which is very amazing and which is very, very interesting that the entire Indus Valley civilization had the same ratio of bricks. It is very, very unlikely that how the entire civilization came on to one standardized ratio of bricks. As you can see the next line, such bricks were used at all Harappan civilizations. So probably there was some contact with each site. So Harappa was in contact with Mohenjo-daro, Mohenjo-daro was in contact with Dholavira, Dholavira and others were in contact with Lothal, so is with Kalibangan, Chanhudaro, Shortugai. All of these sites were somewhere in contact and communication because all the brick sizes were same. It is 4 is to 2 is to 1 in all sites. That's very amazing and that's very interesting to know about Harappan civilization. Next to show that town planning was present. As you can see, the town planning was being present and that is shown through a planned drainage system. There is a planned drainage system. Drainages, when you again, please try and recall Mesopotamia. We have done this in case of Mesopotamia. Now we are applying it on Harappan civilization. Also, drainage system is where the wastewater goes out of the settlement. It is a passage for water, right? The fresh water has to come up and the wastewater has to move out. So drainage system basically is being planned for drawing out the wastewater out of the settlement. And they have a very planned drainage system. How can we say that? Number one, they have first planned the roads and streets, and that is on grid pattern. Grid pattern, what is grid pattern? Grid pattern is like if you have seen chess. So there are squares. That is grid pattern, right? So they have divided the entire settlement into a grid. Grid is when you, if you've seen the board, chess board, it's in a grid pattern, in squares, small squares, and all of them intersect at right angles, 90 degrees. All the grids intersect at right angles. They do, right? They in a chessboard. Imagine a chessboard. All of the square boxes they intersect at right angles. So this was a pattern that they first laid out before they started planning for drainage system. First, they have planned the roads and the streets according to the grid pattern. All of them are intersecting at right angles. Then they started with the drains. So drains, they laid out the drains and they started building houses along with them. So there is no chaotic situation in Mohenjo-daro that let's have the drains first and then we have houses, or houses first and then we have drains first. They will plan the entire city according to the grid pattern, roads and streets. Then they will lay out the drains and then they will build the houses. So that there is no confusion, there is no chaos within the settlement as to how the water will move out of the city. They're very careful about it. Architecture. I've already given you one example of how the ground level had no windows. The ground floor of each house had no windows. Now let's see other features of the domestic architecture of Mohenjo-daro. Number one, the houses. They were centered on a courtyard. Courtyard, you all know, is a place which is outside the house, a small place which is outside the house. And courtyard has rooms on all the sides. Now after this, you have to remember what is this courtyard used for. This courtyard was used for cooking and weaving, the two activities that were being done. Again, I will bring the example of Mesopotamia. Weaving and spinning and other activities were done in temples in Mesopotamia, if you remember. Temples served as centers of these activities. In Mohenjo-daro, the center of all these activities, cooking, weaving, was the courtyard. Courtyard is very important for domestic architecture. Number two, there was a concern for privacy. Again, in theory, we don't have an evidence. The only point that shows that they had a concern for privacy is because they had no windows in the walls along the ground level. And this is a theory, we don't know. Probably they had some other reason for not having windows in the ground level, but this is what historians assume, that probably they had a concern for privacy. Number three, the main entrance does not give a direct view of the entire courtyard. So again, showing that they were not very happy that other people should see the interior of the courtyard. So they have blocked the main entrance so that there is no direct view of the courtyard. Next, every house has its own bathroom, paved with bricks with drains connected to the wall to the street drains. So each bathroom was connected to the main drainage system of the settlement, which are the street drains, right? So again, very planned. Every house having its own bathroom. Every bathroom is being connected with the street drains. Very, very planned. Like today, we have the municipal corporations doing this task for modern day houses. They have already done, the Harappan settlements have already done in 2600 BC what today the municipal corporations do for the modern houses. Next point under this, houses have remains of staircases. So there is more than one story in Harappan houses. As you can see, there are two-story houses in Harappan settlements. Again, very interesting and very amazing that they are able to uh, put up two stories and a roof in the Harappan houses. Then, of course, we have scholars have estimated that the total number of wells in Mohenjo-daro was 700. Imagine the kind of labor that has to be channelized into constructing the wells. 700 wells in Mohenjo-daro alone were present. Again, used for irrigation purposes. As I've told you, for a 3-marker, it is very important. Next is Citadel. Citadel, I've told you, was a elevated part of Mohenjo-daro, and there are two structures in Citadel which are very important. One is called the Great Bath. I think you already know this as a part of your general knowledge. And the second is the warehouse. Warehouse doesn't exist anymore. The structure was made up of wood, and wood, all of you know, decays. It's a perishable material, it decays. So warehouse only in ruins, some part of it here and there remains, but Great Bath has been discovered very clearly in the site of Mohenjo-daro. What was Great Bath and what was it used for? Now, Great Bath can be considered, what is it in structure? It is a large rectangular tank. So it is filled with water, therefore known as the Great Bath. It's a large rectangular tank. So imagine a large rectangular tank filled with water. That is Great Bath. It has a courtyard. It is placed in a courtyard and it's surrounded by corridors on all four sides. Right? Then there are two flights of steps, north and south, leading to the tank. So you can come down to the tank from two sides, north and south. Right? Bricks are being settled on the edge using a mortar or gypsum. Placing the bricks together with mortar or gypsum was used. Now, if you are using a tank for ritual bath, you of course need to have rooms. These are rooms on the three sides, in one of which was a large well. Water from the tank flowed from a huge drain. Again, drainage system in use. Water is coming from a huge drain. There were 8 bathrooms, 4 on each side of the corridor. All of these are features. Students, you have to remember them, learn the features of Great Bath. Again, for a 3-marker, very important. Now, drains from each bathroom were connected to a drain that ran along the corridor. So again, very planned. There was drain in each bathroom. Again, like what we have done in the houses, in concern to the houses, the drains were connected to the bathroom, and that is connected to the drain which was there in corridor. In the case of domestic architecture, bathroom drains were connected to street drains. In the case of Great Bath, bathroom drains were connected to the drains in the corridor. Now, again, this is very, very important that we don't know what great bath was used for. We have absolutely no idea. Again, a theory, an assumption. Scholars suggest that it was meant for some special kind of ritual bath. Again, we don't know. We don't know anything about the religion. We don't know anything about their belief system. So it's again an assumption that it might be used for some special ritual bath. Okay, so this is the first part of the chapter. I'll start with the social differences in my next class, in the next class that I will be posting you very soon. You will revise this, you will listen this entire audio again and again so that you remember. You will jot down your doubts and you will mail it on the class mail ID if you have any. I will revert back. We will start from tracking social differences soon. We hope we are able to complete the chapter in the coming days, right? In case of doubts, please ask. Uh, Learn the picture identifying questions that have been given to you. Learn how to plot the places, the mature Harappan sites on a map. And I will start with the tracking social differences very soon in the next class. Right? Please, all of you, stay safe and utilize this time. You all are in class 12. Please utilize this time to complete your chapters, to learn what has been given to you diligently, meticulously in these days. Right? Thank you.